Good morning. Today we are on chapter 9 of Seedfolks. So I've got our book here and I'm going to go ahead and get started with reading. Chapter 9 is Curtis. Deltoids, awesome. Pecs, check 'em out. Quads, now playing on a body near you. Can't help being born with this body, or living 3 doors down from Cap's gym. Can't stop people calling me Altus or Seps. That's short for biceps are us. Actually, I started that name, but that was before Letitia cut me loose. We had us a real nice thing going. She was a few years older than me, always talking about having a family, living in a house in the country like her aunt's place in Michigan. I wasn't really listening too hard. I was 23. With this body, I had other girls hanging on me at the time. Some of them I just couldn't brush off. When Letitia found out, she slammed the door in my face so hard the paint cracked. You don't know what you got till it's gone. All that was 5 years ago. I've caught up with her now. I'm fooling around. She was looking for a husband, and now I'm looking for a wife. I moved back from Cincinnati in May and ran into her brother the first day. Said she's still single, same third-floor apartment. But when I came up to her street, she turned her back. Wouldn't let me explain. Twice it happened. No chance for words. So I decided to give her some deeds instead. She lives straight across the street from the garden. I staked out a spot right down by the sidewalk where she could look down and see it. Then I came home with 6 little tomato plants in plastic containers. She had a serious thing for tomatoes. She put a monster slice on a piece of bread and called it a sandwich. She'd even bite into them, just like apples. Always talking about eating them out of her aunt's garden when she was a kid, and how she wanted to grow them someday. She probably thought I forgot all about that. I planted them right there in front of her eyes, to show her I hadn't, that I was waiting for her. I got the biggest, beefsteak tomatoes. I could see them in my mind, bright as traffic lights, flashing at her across the street. I'd never grown anything before. I got into it. Every day something new. The first flower bud, then those first yellow flowers. Then the tomatoes growing right behind them. This old man with no teeth and a straw hat showed me how to tie the plants up to stakes. Then someone else told me all their diseases. That got me worrying. What if all my plants started wilting, or caught blight and died? That wasn't any message I'd want her to see. I started coming straight from work to check them. I noticed every hole and every leaf. I picked off bugs, pulled out weeds, and I gave them lots of fertilizer called tomato food, like somebody told me. From little green marbles, those tomatoes started growing. Then they started getting orange. Then they went to red. I kept looking up at Letitia's window, wanting her to see it too. The only faces looking back were drunks that hung out at her place. That liquor store is all boarded up, but they still sucker in their bottles there anyway. They like to call me a field slave and sharecropper. Ask how Massa's crop is doing. I could have banged their heads together and shut 'em up, but I didn't. That was part of the point of the tomatoes. I was showing Letitia that just because I got muscles don't mean I'm some jungle beast. I stopped working out and stopped going out with no shirt, no matter how hot it was. When some chicks would be walking by and see me there and say, "Looking fine," I knew they meant me, but I'd point to my biggest tomato and say back, "Sure is." My homies all laughed to see me out there. Stopped calling me Seps. Started calling me Tomato. I just smiled. These tomatoes got big as billiard balls. One day when I checked them, my biggest one, the one I'd been watching closest, was gone. The next day, another one, gone. It wasn't insects that took them. I was mad. They weren't even all the way ripe yet. My plants were right there by the sidewalk. I put chicken wire around them, and even on top, but people could still reach in if they tried. I couldn't guard them day and night. Then Royce showed up, just in time. You drop bread on the ground and birds come out of nowhere. Same with the garden. People just appeared. People you didn't know were there. Royce was like that, except he didn't want nobody knowing he was there. One of the gardeners saw that her pile of grass clippings was all spread out, had a sort of human print in it. He'd been sleeping there nights and leaving early. One morning he slept late. I'm the one who found him. He was 15, black, and built big. Looked like I did. His face was banged up. Said his father did it and threw him out. He didn't want to go back. I bought him breakfast, and we made us a deal. I found him a place closer to my tomatoes, but hidden by somebody's corn, so the cops wouldn't see him sacked out. I bought him a brand new sleeping bag. I gave him money for food that week. Then I picked up a pitchfork for $3 at a junk shop. His part of the deal was that if he saw or heard anyone mess with my tomatoes, he'd come at 'em full speed, holding the pitchfork. That was my best shot at protecting 'em for the night. For daytime, when Royce was gone, I painted a sign that said Letitia's Tomatoes. It was big. I put it right there in front of the plant, facing the sidewalk. If people know something belongs to a person, instead of the city or the government, they're more likely to leave it be. When I pounded it in, I filled up my water can. Walking back, I looked up at her window. As still as a cat behind that lace curtain, there was her face, staring down at the sign. I think that this chapter shows that a lot of times people can be misjudged, and then you can really care about somebody and do something. So I'm trying to think about the fact that he really cared about Letitia, and he was worried, or he was willing to kind of do something extraordinary to show that he really cared about her. So Curtis wasn't just, to try to use words. He actually did something. So he went out and he started this garden for her, and he thought, what is something that Letitia would want? Not, hey, I really like green beans, so I'm going to plant some green beans. He thought, what would Letitia want me to plant? I'm going to plant tomatoes because those are her favorite. So this week, I want you to think about somebody in your house. What is their favorite thing? So if you're thinking about your mama, what's her favorite color? Maybe you could make her something in her favorite color. Or maybe you could build something out of a toy that you have that's special for her or for somebody else in your family. That's something that I want you to try to do this week, is just really focus on thinking about other people. So not doing something nice for somebody, but thinking about yourself in the process. I know my sister's birthday is this weekend, and my dad's are celebrating them both together. And so for their cake, my other sister and I are really trying to focus on what would she want and what would my dad want too. That's what I want y'all to do, is focus on what would this person want and what can I do that would be special for them. So good luck with that, and I hope you'll have a great weekend. I will see you on Monday.